Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Hashtag Gaming Arena YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a Digimon tier list for BT-10. I'm here with Michael.
Digimon.
God, okay. I'm here with Michael,
What's up?
and I'm here with Ryan. Michael and I we play the game often. We are seasoned players. Michael actually got me into the game, and Ryan is new. So we're going to have him tag along for the ride here. He's going to be with us while we determine these tier lists. And he's gonna ask questions. I hope.
We'll see.
What's a
We'll see down the line.
Digimon?
Yeah. All right. So let's go left to right.
First deck we have is
First thing we have is Alphamon. I think Alphamon actually stays really relevant in this format if we assume that Doru Gray isn't getting hit, which I don't think it's going to. I think it still stays. What I'm gonna rename this to like A, right? I don't think we. Actually, I'm gonna add one.
we'll change it. We'll change it down the line.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one up here.
As
Just
it goes.
make this S.
In terms of Alphamon, I don't think there's any new support cards for it in BT-10.
I think it just stays strong though. Like
It
OTK
stays the
is
same.
so
It will
good.
definitely stay relevant just because it has the natural protection from Dorgreymon, and like the retaliation blocker will still always be good.
How does it deal with the new mechanic? Like I heard people were talking about the save mechanic being like.
It just kind of overpowers it.
Oh.
So the save
I think
mechanic.
it does.
Yeah, like the save mechanic we'll get to when we get to cross, but I think just preemptively, save is it definitely has it gives decks that use it early aggression because they want their things to die.
True.
But
And
yeah.
I mean it's the same as BT9 format where I think having your Digimon die is less consequential. BT9 format, having your Digimon die was less consequential because you didn't have Digimon on the board often because you were raising everything. And BT10, if something dies, it saves, you replay that thing right again. So I don't think it takes that much of a hit. I think it is still A tier. And the reason why I've highlighted it A tier here is I
Come
think
up for Alphamon, right?
yeah, I'm gonna skip ahead. I think Crossheart is our obvious S tier here.
That sounds kind of biased.
I think no matter how you put it, it is the tier 0 deck.
Which one of these pictures is that one?
is this one?
Okay,
So
sick.
I believe it is the clear S tier. It's so fast. It does so well with the resources. It has incredible amounts of control with the ability to cheat out Jeremy blocker, with the ability to block with cross 5.
So what card? What card is the broken card in the deck?
I think so. It's really good mainly because of a cross 4. What cross 4 lets you do is it lets you play out it for effectively 1 cost if you put all of the correct sources underneath, which is Darulamon, Starmons, Ballistamon, and Shoutmon. It lets you play it for only 1 cost. On play, draw 2, and then it gains Rush off a Shoutmon. End of attack, it kills itself to return all of the Digimon underneath it to the bottom of one of your tamers and restance one of your tamers. So you can
Is
cross
cross 4 or cross 4B?
Cross 4.
Right?
Cross 4, yeah. So I don't think the B stuff is going to be used all that much just because, I mean, the Beelzemon is a really weird fit in and it just takes up space. I haven't seen it used in Japan at all. Cross 4, you can cross 4 for 1 memory, and then if you have a Sparrowmon somewhere underneath your tamers or in your hand or on the board, then you can just go into cross 5, and that's at least 3 checks that turn for 1 memory. And if you open with the right hand, it is almost 0 setup.
Yeah, that's really strong.
But it's something that you would need to get. You would need to set up at least what 3 turns for.
You technically only need 1. You just
Because turn 1 you need to play your tamer, right? So you can start saving.
Yeah, exactly. You need to play Taiki, and then if you have the right hand, then you're good to go. And Taiki searches for 1 and then puts 1 underneath him, so it's even more search. You have, effectively, if you open with Taiki and the right stuff, you open with an effectively like 7 card hand. I think it straight up is the best deck in the format. I don't think there's any contesting that. The only things that even counter it a little bit are Gaiomon and Mastimon because they have Tamer hate, and I think that's.
I would actually also say maybe Jesmon as well. Possibly.
Oh, that's fair. Because it doesn't.
Jesmon has a lot of aggro. They don't need as many tamers as they did before because now they have Blitz, and they can get a bunch of bodies on board that they can then block. Because the Shoutmon deck, does it have piercing at all?
Yes.
Or is it just security?
Ballistamon gives it inheritable piercing.
Ballistamon gives it inheritable piercing.
Let me double check that. Ballistamon. Well, it's just
Yeah,
when a
well,
Shoutmon its name,
Shoutmon.
it gives piercing. Yeah. It gives it inheritable piercing and is also a blocker. So yeah, it can't finish out game. If the Sistermons get too wide, but that is
Because
fair.
alternatively, yeah, the Jesmon deck can just sit on the blockers until you're trying to swing for game, then they can start blocking. Yeah, so in terms of aggro, Shoutmon is pretty strong. How does it do in terms of like removal?
In terms of removal, it has I think the biggest strength it has that you have Sunrise Buster. Sunrise Buster is an amazing removal card for, I think it's 5 cost. Let me check. For 5 cost, you may play a yellow or red Tamer card from your hand, and then one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3 KDP for the turn for each yellow or red Tamer you have in play. So,
but it's only for one. It's only for one Digimon, right?
Only
so
for
if
one
they have
Digimon,
a wide
yes,
board, if they have a wide board, then
but you run Crimson Blaze,
Crimson Blaze, yeah,
which
it's
wipes
gonna
out
be
all the Sistermons and prevents them from playing out more Sistermons the end of the next turn. So, I mean, just the ability to run 1 or 2 of Crimson Blaze makes the Jesmon matchup so much easier. Because if they go too wide, you just drop a Crimson Blaze and wipe their Sistermons. If they go too tall, you drop a Sunrise Buster to kill the Jesmon. Actually, I don't think you can kill the Jesmon, but you can. Oh, that is a good point, actually. That you probably aren't able to kill Jesmon with just a Buster, because odds are you're probably gonna have 3-4 Tamers on field. You drop an extra one. Let's say 2 of those Tamers are Jeremy's.
Since we're talking about Jesmon, we want to move on to Jesmon and talk about that
definitely.
a bit more. So where do you think? I personally think Jesmon will be a tier 1 deck.
You think it's tier 1 or tier 0?
Tier 0. Sorry, tier 0.
Tier 0.
Correct.
I
think
can
it would
see that.
I think it would compete with the Shoutmon deck just because they have a bunch of new support cards, especially since Savior Huckmon got hit to 1, the old one.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have access to new option cards like the new what's Memory Boost form.
It has the new From Master to Disciple.
Yep. It is a 2-cost option that has a main effect to reveal 3 cards on the top of your deck and add a Huckmon or Sistermon in its name or a Roller Knight. Trash the rest, which is pretty good because Jesmon gets to play Sistermons from the trash. And then you get to play it in your battle area where it has a delay effect that says the next time one of your Digimon digivolves this turn, you can reduce memory cost by 1. So, memory negators like Gazimon, Madoki Beta, they don't hit this card. And it's a 2-cost option rather than a 3-cost option.
The memory reducers, the ones that prevent your opponents from reducing Digivolution costs, do hit this card, but nobody plays them now because hybrids are not prevalent.
Yeah, right now, correct.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, like just all their new cards, like the new Sistermon Blanc, where you can on play try to card draw 2. Pretty good card draw mechanic because old Jesmon didn't really have draw power. And it also gives him decoy, so if you try to kill a Jesmon with an effect, you can then trash a Sistermon instead. So it's pretty good.
It also gets the support of the new BT-10 Sistermon CL. Yeah. Which says, on play, if it's your turn, you may digivolve one of your Digimon into a Digimon with Royal Knight and its traits in your hand by paying its Digivolution cost. Lets you go into X antibody and then go straight into GX.
That, or also, it lets you... if you put the new level 5, the new Saber Huckmon, or sorry, even the old one, the old Saber Huckmon,
both of them.
Has a when Digivolve, you can play a Sistermon from your hands. You can play that, use the on-play effect of the seal to go into the new Jesmon, which then has Blitz, and lets you, when attacking, play another Sistermon.
The new Savior Huck doesn't have doesn't play out a Sistermon. It's
I meant the old one.
Yeah, the old one does.
Yeah, so you can go into the old one, and then go into the new Jesmon that has Blitz. It can attack, which then activates one of its when attacking effects to play a Sistermon, and then you can play another one to then go into GX.
I mean, all this is granted that you, of course, find all your pieces, but given how much search this deck has,
it does. Actually, it has a lot of search and it has a lot of draw power because Gurimon, the BT-8 egg, is a card that gives red all of their draw power. When attacking, if the Digimon has 6k or more, draw 1. They didn't have that before. Also,
you also get the Searcher Huckmon, which reveals the top 5, adds 2 cards with Huckmon, Jesmon, or Sistermon, which is absurd. Revealing top 5 adding 2 is crazy. And then it also gets the new. Is this a new one? I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember if it's the Huckmon, but it's the inheritable. When attacking, search top deck. Yeah, here it is. When attacking, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Add all cards to Sistermon. If you raise an early stack, knowing that it's gonna die, and you're doing it just to get swings in, just to get more searches. This inheritable Huckmon from BT-7 lets you search out more of your Sistermon CLs to Evo into, because you need at least 1 to do your combo, and give it piercing. But I mean,
This deck actually seems crazy.
This deck is it's all about aggro. You're all about doing all your effects while you're attacking, which then lets you clear off your opponent's board in the turn. Because certain card effects like the new Jesmon X Antibody gives it the effect to it can attack a unsuspended Digimon.
I can't wait to beat D Reaper with this.
And another thing too that makes this deck so good is, let's say you don't kill them on the turn that you played them out, you just played out like 4 Jesmon. Now they're 4 Sistermons.
Sistermons, correct.
They have to figure out how to deal with those, because all of those little girls are going to swing at your security.
Correct, because also the old Sistermon that's still used in the deck gives all your Sistermons blocker.
Yep.
But we need to talk about the card you play in Jesmon. The secret.
Yes, Jesmon GX.
Jesmon GX. That is probably going to be one of the more expensive secrets that Digimon has ever had. Just because it's not just it doesn't have to be just used in Jesmon. It can be used in any Royal Knight deck because of its special evolution requirement.
And I mean, people have been experimenting with putting other Royal Knights under. If you're unfamiliar with Jesmon GX, it lets you put another Royal Knight underneath the stack, and then lets you activate one of your Royal Knight sources when digivolving cards. So that does include like Magnamon, and it includes All Force Vidramon.
I believe Dynasmon as well.
Yeah, other Jesmons as well. But the big one that it does use is Gankumon, right? Yeah, Gankumon, which lets you play another Huckmon or another Sistermon when digivolving. And it just lets you get out more Sistermons, more Huckmons. If you need to build another stack, a Huckmon comes out as your turn ends. If you need to get more DP, get that blocker Sistermon Blanc on board, or get that healing Sistermon Blanc Awaken on board, it lets you cheat that one out too. So it's just that extra push you need, and then it just inherently, while it has a card with Royal Knights in its traits, which it should, or in its Digivolution cards, which it should always have due to its own ability and also evolving on top of Jesmon, it gains Piercing, Blocker, and Sec +1.
It's for each card as well. So if you have multiple Warrior Knights underneath it, it'll gain multiple security attacks.
It is not for each card.
It is.
While the Digimon has a card with Royal Knights in its traits. Oh, for each card. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
It gains Piercing, Blocker, and Security Attack +1 for each card.
Oh, right. That is weird. But yeah, it makes it even better, because then you're checking for 3. Because you have the Jesmon underneath, and I'm assuming you're, in the ideal play, you're putting the Gankumon underneath as well. So you're
or the Jesmon X Antibody as well.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so then you're also checking for 4 if you have all that.
Yeah,
and
so
then
I definitely don't think the Jesmon deck needs this card per se. It is a nice extra level of aggro where you can get piercing, blocker, security attack plus multiple, depending on what's in your sources, as well as being able to swing at an active Digimon.
I mean, this is deserved just because Jesmon's is going through hell recently. Getting Savior Huck hit really makes the deck hard, but let's go ahead and move on to the next deck. Let's go and talk about another new deck, Blue Flare. What do you? I know I'm a big Blue Flare. I love Blue Flare. What do you think of Blue Flare?
I haven't actually gotten a chance to look at it too much, but I definitely think it has a lot of potential. If you want to explain what the deck does.
Yeah, so Blue Flare is another one of those Digicross decks. Lets you Digicross into larger Digimon by putting sources underneath it. Its key card is going to be Metal Greymon, which gives it Rush when you Digicross, and then stuns 3 Digimon with less than or equal to the amount of sources that you have. right? So if you're always digicrossing with male Bergermon and Decardramon, you're always going to be stunning something that has
Two sources.
2 or less sources, which is going to be most level 4s or lower. So while with Blue Hybrid in the past, you had to strip all those sources to stun, this you can stun anything, and you can stun a 3. And let's say you can't stun a big stack like Jessamon. Let's say you can't stun it. Male Bergermon has the inheritable that says, while this Digimon has blue flare in its traits and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack or block until the end of your opponent's next turn. So it just lets you straight up stun something. I think the reason why I think this deck is going to be not S tier, but I think at least A tier is because of its horrendously good matchup in Adjustmon. It can stun Sistermons. Because of how many Sistermons that Jessamon spits out, it's going to be able to always proc its effects to let it restand, and always proc its effect to stun more things. And it's going to be able to use the combination of male Bergermon and Decker Greymon's effect to stun the Jessamon itself. And so once you start doing that, because Jessamon can't attack, it can't activate its when attackings, so it's not able to keep continuing the string. And then if you're able to keep stunning turn by turn by turn by turn, it can't get out more Sistermon. So you just stop the whole deck in its tracks.
So then, in terms of removal, what kind of removal option does this deck have?
It's blue, so it's able to play Kakaida's Breath. I mean, that's it's able to play Kakaida's Breath.
Plasma Decardra Launcher as well. The new option card.
It's Plasma Decardra Launcher is not bad. My only thing with it is that level 6 or higher Digimon is a very specific line, in that if you have it in hand, you need to remove a level 5. It's not going to do anything for you. Of course,
like you said, well, I guess level 5 is going to be the weird gray area, but the deck itself seems to be, it can stun level 4s and lowers pretty easily.
That's fair. It can stun the level 4s and lowers. It is getting bounce. It is getting it's getting the support of Blazing Memory Boost, which is going to let it search for a bunch of stuff.
It's an option card that can be reduced to 5 if you have 2 or more. If your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play too.
Yeah.
So it's a cheaper bounce a problem card.
The Kakaida's, yeah. I mean, we see this with Metal Storm. We see this with Plasma Decardra Launcher. Is that we always end up getting these alternatives. Like Bandai wants us to not play Kakaida's Breath and play these cards instead. And you see people, they end up leaning towards Kakaida's Breath in the end.
I mean, it's not even that they don't want us to use Kakaida. I think it's just because Kakaida's Breath was a starter deck specific card that not many new players might have access to. So they're trying to come out with new cards so that people can still have a similar effect.
Yeah, 1000%. Where would you put Blue Flare?
I would probably put it. To be honest, most of the new decks I'm putting at A tier right now until we actually go through all of them, and then we'll adjust it as it goes. So right now, I would put it probably A tier because it does seem pretty strong because it just uses the same mechanic.
I'm not gonna lie, I put it under Alphamon because it loses to OTK, which is still really powerful. So let's go ahead and keep going through the new decks. We've
next one we have the yellow decks.
Yeah.
So there's two yellow decks in the new format that people can play. There's Venusmon and there's Akuyamon.
So yeah, I mean you're more the expert of Venusmon.
Yeah. So Venusmon, we can do Venusmon first. Venusmon, I think, is going to be, I would say, also an A tier deck as of right now, at least. Just because it has a strong when Digivolving where all your opponent's Digimon gain security -1 until your opponent's turn ends. So it's a pretty good blanket. Just all your opponent's Digimon can attack the player. And like it even hits cards that are coming out of Raising as well because it's a blanket. It's not specific targeting. So that is pretty good. You not necessarily need Sakuyamon, even though I think Sakuyamon is still a good card to use in this deck. The old one from BT-5. But then I think the strong part of it is the opponent's turn effect that says your opponent's Digimon with security attack, specifically security attack, can't attack this Digimon in any when Digivolving and when attacking effects of those Digimon don't activate. I think that second part is really strong because when a lot of cards have when Digivolving or when attacking effects, and that's when a lot of the decks like Jessamon, for example, have a lot of they need those effects for them to pop off. So I think being able to prevent that from happening is pretty strong.
And having Venusmon in the field means that any security modifier that they have is going to hurt them.
Correct.
So,
So the only
it
so the
hurts
only
red
thing
the most.
So the opponent's turn. It's your opponent's Digimon with security attack specific. It doesn't mention plus or minus. So as long as they don't have a net 1 in security attack, like a normal attack on them, they can't activate anything. So there's security -1, security +1. They can't activate any of their one Digivolving or one attacking effects, which I feel like a lot of the this will definitely hurt a lot of the red decks because even like Jesmon specifically, or even Shoutmon, because some of those cards, those boss monster cards, just naturally have security +1 on them.
And so another thing you highlighted earlier that we were talking about is the new Sanzomon, which originally this card, Venusmon, was only played in Yellow Hybrid. With the loss of Yellow Hybrid and with the Yellow Hybrid dying out, you were actually able to play more diverse decks with, I'm going to say it, just more fun other cards that aren't just hybrids. And with that, we get Sanzomon. Sanzomon has an incredibly powerful when attacking that says when attacking once a return, one of your opponent's Digimon gets security attack -1. Strong
It's
enough.
When Digivolving.
It's inheritable.
Oh, the inheritable.
It's inheritable. It's already strong on its own, but when it's in Venusmon, that means you can basically stun, or you not stun. You can stop a Digimon from using its when attacking or when Digivolving abilities anytime you want, and stop it from getting its checks in.
I actually would say it is kind of like a stun, at least if it's under Venusmon, because Venusmon's the other part of the opponent's turn is your opponents, they can't attack this Digimon. Yeah, they can't attack Venusmon if they have a security attack on them. On the opponent's turn, Venusmon says your opponent's Digimon with security attack can't attack this Digimon. So if Sanzo's underneath, it's essentially kind of a stun. They can't attack Venusmon, they can't attack security. So I think those two in tandem would be pretty strong.
Yeah, there's no Venusmon on here, so I'm just gonna use Zoe to represent it, simply because it's the same archetype. I want to put it below Blue Flare, simply because I feel like it suffers from just being a stack heavy deck in this day and age. That you need to stack up to your level 6 to get stuff working with your traditional 2 cost even to level 4, 3 cost even to a level 5, 4 cost even to a level 6. That's just really slow in this format.
So because it's at most 5 memory to at least sit at the level 5 point in your hatchery to raise out Gold Train to your level 6.
Yeah.
Whereas Jesmon has the same thing. Shoutmon, you're essentially doing that because you have to wait a turn to swing and save, and then play a tamer. You're playing your tamers for 3 memory, going into your cross, and then playing out your crosses. You're essentially playing more than 5 memory go into your boss monster. So I would say it still keeps at the same pace. It definitely follows the old play style, but not necessarily the new using the new mechanic.
Does Venusmon have any effective searches besides TK and Yellow Memory Boost?
I don't think so. But I think the deck itself, I feel like they just have a lot of pieces at all levels that can go into their piece that can help them with their entire mechanic of security minusing. That I mean, of course, decks that brick is gonna brick. Searching and stuff like that is definitely will help. But I feel like there's even if you don't find the right pieces to build up into your stack, even being on the reactive side, finding pieces later than your opponent, that then gives you a target to then stun or to then give security minus. So going into your piece later is not necessarily a bad thing.
That's fair, yeah. Let's move on to the next yellow deck. Yeah, Sukuyamon. Sukuyamon gets a bunch of new support in this set.
It really does. It gives the second half of the new Renamon, the new basically Sakuya line. It had its original appearance in I believe BT-5, and it was an okay deck back then. It got they got new cards in EX2, but the deck was still not at that point. But I think this is where the deck actually gets to see some light. Like I said, they have new Digimon at all the levels. So they have a new Renamon, a new Cubimon, a new Talmon, and then of course there's the new Sakuyamon Maid Mode, which is the very important key piece in the deck.
The thing that makes it so good is that it can loop into itself.
It can.
You can evolve into Sakuyamon and then go into Maid Mode, or Maid Mode back into Sakuyamon.
Yep, and then it keeps going back and forth as long as you have the cards. And also, there's two new, I believe two. Yeah, there's two new plugins that the deck can use now, which also makes them pretty good.
Defense plugin C, which gives one of your Digimon block your reboot for 5 cost. And upgrade plugin O, which gives one of your Digimon plus 3,000 DP until your opponent's next turn ends for only 2 costs. And upgrade plugin O actually has a really good security effect. It's gain 1 memory and security, so it gives Sakuyamon an X80 body or a Hammer Spark, which is crazy.
I think defense plugin C will actually be the really important card because it doesn't give just blocker and reboot. It also makes it so that the Digimon can't be deleted by your opponent's effects.
Oh, I did not read that. Yeah, that's true.
Which is very important. I feel like the decks nowadays have a lot of removal and removal options, so being able to prevent deletion is pretty strong, and it keeps it going into its turn.
But I do think that a lot of removal right now is less straight removal and more bouncing and DP reduction, especially with how powerful Sunrise Buster is going to be, and especially with how powerful Kakaida's Breath and Moga X are going to be. I think it of course it's still going to be really good. I would personally put this around high B tier.
I actually would put it again. I would actually put it in the high A tier, just because. Well, yes, just because of Noosa Maid Mode.
Mm-hmm.
Sakuyamon Maid Mode has a when Digi-evolving, you may use an option card or plug in its name or a yellow option card with a memory cost of 5 or less from your hand, ignoring its restrictions, without paying its cost. And then after using it, you can, instead of trashing it, you place it at the top of your security. I think that effect alone lets you play out other option cards like Holy Flame. Holy Flame is a really good security minus card.
And it lets you play out Sunrise Buster.
And lets you play out Sunrise Buster, correct? Because it's a 5 cost option.
I can see that.
I definitely think this deck lacks in, I would say, more so protection or like defense. Sorry, I would say defense. But in terms of offense, if you have the right setup, I believe this deck can actually OTK you now. Because you would ideally, when you go in, you have like a Patamon, like when you DP, because this deck DP minuses a lot, so it would actually go through like all the Shoutmon protection, all the like the armor purges and stuff like that. It would go straight through that. It would, and it doesn't necessarily need to attack to DP minus. You just need to use the option card, so it can remove like the blue flare decks. It can move the Sistermons from Jesmon. Like you can do a lot of things with the deck to play a lot of plug-in option cards to remove things off the board.
So I'd say I want to put it kind of at the bottom of A, at the bottom of A tier right now.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
Just because I think also because the deck has a lot of flexibility because you have the different plugins that do a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
You can give it security attack. You can make it unblockable and jamming, so it doesn't die in security. You can evo into your stuff for free, so it's kind of like giving it the green treatment. So I definitely think that deck will be pretty good to keep an eye on.
So let's keep going through our decks. We are
next one is the green deck.
Green deck. That's going to be Bloom.
The new green one is Bloomlord, which is the middle on the bottom.
Yeah, so Bloomlord, I want to hurry up just a little bit just because we are 30 minutes in and we've gone through, what, 6 decks at this point. Bloomlord just goes really, really wide, and it capitalizes off of having a bunch of plants open. And I think that this deck is pretty decent right now. I would put it in high B, low A, but I think it suffers from having too much red in the format, which means too much crimson plays in format.
Yeah, unfortunately, as a green player, I would unfortunately have to.
I think it does get cherry.
Only option card that kind of counters this deck.
Yeah,
pretty easily because their restriction Bloomlord's restrictions is you can play stuff that is 3K or less with that has plant vegetation and all that stuff. It definitely makes it so all of your level 4 and lowers will definitely die to Crimson Blaze, which is ideally your building pieces. In terms of aggro, I do think this deck is pretty easily, like you can swarm the board super early. Like when I play tested this deck, I've had such a big board presence at like turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah. It just
Um,
spams out other pieces.
yeah, so it's definitely and then just having the fact that you can gain a bunch of memory, gain piercing, gain extra security attacks +1s. It definitely has the aggro sense, but it doesn't currently have the defense. Because
Um,
especially with the mechanic, because half the mechanic of the deck is having all your things suspended.
yeah.
So,
So next thing I want to move up to is Bagger Army. Um, I think Bagger Army has a really fun mechanic in that you can use, which one is it? It's one of the level 6s. Yes, you can use Tactimon um to wait, which one is it? I think it's
no, it's Mad Leomon.
yes. Oh, sorry, you're right. It's Mad Leomon that says whenever your opponent's hand size is increased by effects, you can trash its Digivolution cards to force them to trash stuff, and then almost everything in your deck just says when it's trashed by an effect, gain memory. I think it's a really fun deck. Really cool idea to control your opponent's hand size and to gain memory whenever they try to do anything. It doesn't have aggression, and I think it just straight up loses because of that.
Yeah, the deck right now it's currently I would say it's a tax deck. If
Yeah.
you're making your opponent
You can't capitalize off of the opportunity you make by
correct.
by
Correct. Like this deck literally just prevents you or like makes it reverts any kind of effects that you try to do on your turn to benefit you
yeah.
by either reducing the memory that you get on your turn because you're trying to do something or make you strip certain cards out from the hand because you just got some cards in from an effect.
So personally, I'd put it low B. I just don't see this deck. I see this deck being competitive. I see it people actually wanting to play it. I don't see it topping anything, right?
Yeah, correct. Right now it does not. Definitely in BT-11 when they come out with new support for the deck, I think that deck will then be a good deck.
I've actually been seeing a lot of varying opinions on this deck. Minerva Loop. I know you are not a big fan of Minerva Loop. I don't know where I am with it. Minerva Loop, I think, is one of the decks that will always be held back by the fact that it's a loop deck. I have stood by this. Loop decks are always going to be top in the format no matter what because they have so much skill potential. But because they're so absolutely difficult to play, I think we don't actually see that many loop players. And when we do see loop players, it's a small chance that they're actually all that good. So
No, this is one of the first loop decks that's come out since
it is the only other loop deck besides Lilith.
Lilithmon, yes,
Yeah.
and that deck was only strong when Hidden Potential or not Hidden Potential, Mega Digimon Fusion wasn't limited
Yes.
or banned.
I think Minervalon suffers from just having the requirement to have 2 or less Digimon. Like you said this too.
Correct.
With how wide this format is, Jessmon,
Yeah, most of the decks right now will have a lot of bodies on board.
Yeah,
so you won't be able to pull off the loop when
suffers a
you
lot. I would put it above Bagger Army though.
I would put Bagger Army right now as a fun deck. It's a 4 fun deck.
You think all the way down here?
I would put it in the fun category. People play it just to have fun, just making it so that your opponent doesn't have a good time. Who knows? Maybe they could be able to get, or like they could. I can see it potentially taking some games because you're ideally just you're taxing your opponent from trying to do things on their turn. So ideally, the memory would pass over sooner than they want to. So then you get more turns to then swing at their security.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I don't think it lacks a lot of the key points of making a deck a good deck. So
it doesn't. Yeah, actually, let's just go ahead and move on. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the next new deck. We have Twilight. I know very little about Twilight. I'm gonna be real honest.
So Dark Knight, the new Twilight deck in BT-10 is going to be the Dark Knightmon deck. People could play Blast Mode, but that one's from Bagger Army. Twilight specifically is for Dark Knightmon like anybody. I definitely do think this deck might be I would maybe consider this a rogue deck. I don't see many people finding much hype in it, but I could potentially being able to see this deck do pretty well in locals at least, maybe not in official regional tournaments, but just because right now the Dark Knightmon deck right now is all about just hard playing your body, your Dark Knightmon to then put sources underneath from your hand. So it was an early form of crossing, and then you just swing at a level earlier, multiple security attacks, multiple increased DP, and then even if it died, you would then get to them just play out your Digivolution sources as Digimon for you to then go back into a Dark Knightmon.
I think with all the new support, it's really fun to be able to digicross Dark Knightmon. I just think that digicrossing Dark Knightmon himself down to a 4 cost it's still a 4 cost. It's still so
Yes,
expensive.
I mean, well, not necessarily so because like because of the tamer, some of the tamers we got in BT-9 is actually pretty, and especially with against like Cross where they're also hard playing their stuff. I feel like the being at 3 memory is not going to be normal anymore.
That's fair.
I,
That's true.
I feel like it's like the memory game and the memory is going to be more fluctuating now, and just like and yeah, still even being able to reduce a Dark Nightmon being played from right now currently it's a 7 cost down to a 4 cost is still pretty good because then at least you get to choke out your opponent.
Yeah. So
But also the new Dark Nightmon has an on play that lets you devolve, so it's also pretty good preemptively to just play it. And then the Dark Nightmon X antibody makes it pretty much a lot stronger because you can return a black or purple Digimon other than itself from the trash to your hand when de-evolving.
and you can
And
pop
then
your own Nene to gain
yeah, and then you
takeover.
can pop your own Nene. Yeah, so you can pop your own Nene, which the Nene Tamer has a on deletion gain 2 memory to then extend your plays. And then if the Dark Knightmon X antibody ends up dying, you can then play a Dark Knightmon from your trash without paying its memory cost.
I'm gonna make a quick correction real quick to something we said about Jesmon. I mentioned that Jesmon with its Jesmon GX effect, you want to put Gankumon underneath. You actually want to put Gankumon X antibody underneath because it lets you play another Sistermon, and then it lets you protect all of them from bouncing and DP reduction.
Yep.
Just a quick correction. Now we're just gonna move on to the decks that got. Actually, no, I actually forgot about Ragnarlord.
Yes,
Ragnarlord has been
Ragnarlord
seeing some pretty decent performances. I wouldn't say it's topping anything too much.
I think the deck right now it's definitely a starting point to make that deck a lot better. The old Ragnarlord like the issue of it back then was you had to build super high, like you had to build all the way up to your level 6 first, and then raise it out of the hatchery to then go into your Ragnarlord because Ragnarlord back then was a scary card. It had reboot, it had blocker, it had piercing, it had natural security attack pluses. The deck right now, from the starter deck, most of the effects let you search your deck and or play out cards that you reveal from the top of your deck onto the field, so you can ideally cheat out your higher level Digimon to
And
then
then
go
put them
into
into your
your
sources.
Ragnarlords. Yeah, so you can go into your Ragnarlord mons sooner.
I mean, ideally with the perfect Ragnarlord stack, you're doing a bunch of huge checks while also just not being affected by cards.
Yep.
The
Yeah,
only
and
issue,
then
the
and
issue
then it
with it,
restands
yeah,
whenever a security, whenever either player loses security stack. So if it's a blocker, you attack your opponent's security. Your opponent attacks your security. You can restand it.
its biggest issue is just it wires way too many pieces. Um, it's going
Yes
to
and
be
no.
pretty difficult to pull off the full combo, even with the amount of
Like,
search it has.
well, so I mean, it's not even that. I would say it's like it is. You definitely won't be able to get 2 fully stacked sources underneath it to get the most out of its one Digivolving effect. But because of how the deck works right now, where you can, like I said, reveal top 3, for example, and then play out one of them, like even if it's a level 5, I think you can play out like up to 7 costs or lower, if I'm not
You can play,
mistaken.
yeah, 7 costs. You can play it
Yeah,
Raijudo and
you
Durable.
you play out you just for free for you play out a level 5. And then you can go straight into a level 6, and then end of turn you can DNA or whatever into a Ragnarlord. It won't have as many sources as you would ideally like to get the most value off of its Ragnarlormon's when DNA evolutioning, but you'll still at least get up to him relatively soon.
I think I feel safe putting it around high B tier right above Bloomlord. I wouldn't put
As
it
of right now,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
As of right now, I would say so. I
Um,
definitely have seen some people, like I was mentioning it to you earlier,
Yeah.
people playing this with Chaos Dramon, or Machine Dramon, not Chaos Dramon. Machine Dramon just being able to play out the Machine Dramon and then DNA evolutioning the 2 stacks into a Ragnarlord to then strip 3 security cards.
Yeah.
I think that deck might be pretty. I would say it's a pretty fun deck too.
So now we get to all the returning decks. Let's go ahead and start with some of those decks from the BT-9 format. Metal Garurumon. I still think this deck is insanely good. Bouncing level 4s means you can bouncing level 4s means you can bounce a lot of really relevant pieces for other decks. Bouncing Sister Mont Blanc specifically, and a full board wipe for the lowest level on board, and bouncing all of them means you can bounce close to all Sistermons. Some of them are level 3, some of them are level 4. Most of them are level 4. You can bounce a bunch of Sistermons, and you can bounce cross. And the best thing about bouncing cross stuff is
that
the
you don't
fact,
activate save.
yes, that you don't activate save, and all the sources go to the trash. I have seen people put this next to Crosshard. I disagree with that. I think it's the top of A. What do you think?
I would put it there. I don't think it's a tier 0 deck anymore, if it ever was, in this format. Just because, yes, it can do all those things, and it has like really good offense, and it has like, it doesn't have, but I would say it loses out to. I feel like BT-10 there's a lot of removal option cards now. Like, yellow gets one that minuses 12k DP. Other,
that's fair.
however you pronounce that card. Green actually gets a good option card now called Grand Soul that lets you suspend your opponent's Digimon and then return one opponent suspended to the bottom of its owner's deck. So before, like right now with Ground Fang, with the issue that BT-9 had with Ground Fang was it only returned an opponent suspended Digimon to the bottom of their deck. It had to have been suspended. So against Melga, where they kept restanding at the start of their attack, it was never really suspended enough, or it was never suspended, so you couldn't bottom deck it. Now, Grand Assault literally sets up itself to then return it to the bottom of the deck. So, and then like even other cards like Death the Cannon, purple's new removal card that literally it's a cost to leave opponent's level 6 or lower if you have 10 in trash, then add one to the effect. And then just other cards like Plasma Decadra Launcher.
Yeah, there's more removal that's able to hit.
There's
More
there's more
that
removal.
doesn't have it doesn't have effect protection. But OTK is still incredibly powerful right now. Of course, maybe not as strong as Cross, but I still see it topping just as hard as it does now. I think I want to say the next deck I want to look at is, where is Grandis on here actually? Oh, there it is.
It's right there.
Next thing I want to talk about is Grandis. Big thing that we should know. I am a huge Grandis hater. I think Grandis is not good in BT-9 compared to the rest of OTK decks. I think it's not good. But in this format, I actually don't think it does all that bad because it's no longer as strong of an OTK format. Your opponents actually give you just a little bit more time to get into Grandis, I think.
Yeah, I think Grandis will also do well here too because one of the things that it didn't really suit it well in BT-9 was because everyone's building OTK and they're all keeping their pieces into their hatchery. There is nothing really on board for Grandis to interact with, which kind of helps it gain with its memory gain from the Okuamon promo, where anytime your opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, they lose a memory. So at least now, because a good portion of the deck has a bunch of wide things on board, they have multiple bodies on board. This will then give Grandis multiple targets to then target to suspend, have them lose the memory, and then you can then swing at it to remove it off the board.
What do you think of putting it right under Blue Flare?
I wouldn't say it goes under, to be honest, just because of how big the stack is. Because it's OTK deck, it wouldn't be any target to stun from the Blue Flare deck. I would actually put it on top.
You'd put it right above.
I would put it above.
Yeah.
And even if you can stun the entire stack when attacking, ideally the Grandis deck is going to be swinging at those things to then get it off the board.
Next up, I want to talk about Wargrey X. Wargrey X's biggest shtick was that it gets around Beelstarmon. Now it does not, because Beelstarmon doesn't. I mean, there isn't like as much security removal in format. I think it isn't as much of a threat because you don't lose if you get your stack removed. So I don't think it has as much of a niche.
Which deck is this?
Wargrey X.
It was with the effect to every time a security gets removed, gain a memory.
Yes. I think it just gets shadowed by Gaiomon. If you.
Yeah, I definitely think like Black Wargreymon is definitely the better red/black deck right now, just because of the tamer interaction, the fact that it can swing at active, and the restand ability of it kind of gives it that blue taste of being able to restand. So I think Wargrey X is currently just being overshadowed by it.
I'd put it right under Murder Loop. It's still competitive. I would say B and up is still competitive. You can still win with it. The right pilot can take it far, but you're gonna have a harder time than if you just played Cross Art, obviously. And then we just talked about Gaiamon. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
I think Gaiamon
I think Gaiamon would also be in the S tier right now.
S tier. Ooh, that's a bold prediction.
Because it has Tamer interaction, so it actually kind of destroys the Shoutmon stuff, all the cross hearts, all the decks that use the save mechanic. Gaiamon can just freely like delete it, especially since most of them are, I believe, 3-cost Tamers as well.
Yes, Gaiamon can kill 2 of them.
Yeah, Gaiamon is able to kill 2 with just 1 swing because it's a 1 Digivolve into, I think it's the
Blackrock Greymon.
No, it's the red black level 5 with the inheritable. When attacking, you can delete a 3-cost.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It was the
Megadramon.
Yes, Megadramon. That card is going to be seeing. I feel like this card is going to be seeing a lot of play.
I don't
because it's a 1 Digivolve, delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamer with a play cost of 3 or less, which against the Shoutmon is super good.
And then when attacking, it does the same thing.
And it's also not once per turn as well, so you can.
So
do it
whenever it
restands,
yeah.
Right,
I think. I don't think it's top of S tier, but I think it's top of A tier. Or I don't think it's S tier. I think it's top of A tier though. I just think it does so well against Shoutmon, which is very, very good in this format. But
I actually think it also does really well against Jesmon as well.
Does it?
Because again, deletes Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less, and it can swing active. It's a Jesmon that doesn't need Judgment of the Blade or any other Digimon, any other like extra Digimon on top of it, and so you can swing at the Jesmon and delete the Sistermon that are potentially blockers. You can restand multiple times. You can, and then you can go into Gaiamon that gives it reboot and security attack +1 while still keeping all the inheritables still alive.
But you do suffer from, because it's only a blocker by itself, you do suffer from being swarmed by Sistermons. You can kill Sistermon Blancs, and that's it. Every other Sistermon is a 4-cost.
Yeah, but you can also, you can swing active and like.
Yeah, you can.
So like the swarm of Sistermons for Jesmon is only when they have their Jesmon on the board. If you can swing over the Jesmon, you're stopping them from being able to play out their Sistermons by effects. Which then, because the Blackrock Greymon then restands, you can then take a swing at a Sistermon with the 4-cost one. So then you can use the Magidramon's effect to delete the 3. So that's 3 bodies already gone off the board from 2 attacks. So I think it would either it's a low S tier deck or it's a rogue deck. I feel
rogue. I don't think it's rogue at all.
Like it definitely has a lot of good matchups against certain other kinds of decks, but the deck itself.
Okay.
So if anything, I would put it higher than Jesmon, or I would put it.
I would not put it higher than this one.
I put it in the same tier. I would put it in the same tier as Jesmon and Shoutmon.
That's fair. Yeah, it has good matchups into Blue Flare. It has good matchups into.
Just in general, being able to interact with Tamers right now is super strong. So.
That's fair. Yeah. Any other BT-9 decks? Right. Gallantmon X.
Gallantmon X.
You're deleting stuff. It's just gonna save itself. Who cares? I never thought Gallantmon X was that good.
But the deck still gets to trash security, so I think which is the important.
Does still get the trash security. High B, maybe.
You get to delete things and still be able to trash security.
High B, mid B. I don't think it exceeds above that.
I would put it in A tier at least.
It didn't beat A or B tier in BT-9. I don't think it's gonna surpass that.
Well, because again, it's an OTK format. The Gallantmon, because the current format is no longer OTK format, it has removal and time to build up into their ideal stack.
Oh, that is true. Yeah. I see your point.
And especially since it has a lot of its DP based. Like because I feel like D-Reaper
the format is small too.
It is small. Like Gallantmon literally destroys Bloomlord.
Yeah,
easy, without a doubt.
And it's able to hit over cross 4. Cross 4 is going to delete itself, but
and it just naturally has high DP. So I feel like it can swing through a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think Crimson Blaze is still just going to be a really strong card just to use.
Red is benefiting a lot of this format from Crimson Blaze. Yeah.
When attacking, trash top card of your opponent's stack, and then increase for every 10 cards in your opponent's trash, which I think is still pretty good.
Okay, so now we're going back to EX2. Beelzemon. I know you're a Beelzemon player. What do you think of this deck going into this format?
I think there is new support for the current Beelzemon deck. I don't think it will change too much of how the deck plays. Only two cards that really get added into the Beelzemon deck are the Balmon or Balemon and the new Beelzemon. I definitely think the new Beelzemon will get to see some play just because it now has an inheritable that, when attacking, for every 10 cards in trash, you gain a memory. So it's a Jack Raid as an inheritable. And then even just in the fact that you can play out a Beelzemon because of Balmon's effect, you can play out a Beelzemon from your trash. I feel like and any Beelzemon doesn't have to be the new one. I think it's pretty good. I do think it feels weird though because with the new Balemon, the fact that it has to die for you to be able to play out a Beelzemon, it feels kind of bad because
You lose the inheritables Soulmon,
you lose the
Skullstabmon.
you lose the inheritables of like the Wizardmon promo, which makes the deck super good, super consistent. You lose out on like the EX2 Itmon that gives a Beelzemon 2 or 3k DP naturally if it has just Beelzemon in the name. So I definitely think it's a bit weird. But these two cards, I think, because they also just add new ways for you to trash your deck, I think it's gonna be still pretty good.
I think it goes to C.
I would I think it's this deck still does well over Maneuver Loop. Any of like or
See-
even
see,
so
the
I would
issue is that
I would put it so I feel like this deck I would put it under Rogue. It's definitely
Under
not
Rogue?
it's definitely not a normal contender, but it can see like it might creep up on people.
Okay, so my thing with it is that I like the deck. I don't think it belongs in the same as Bloom Lord and Arachno Lord. That's the reason why.
I would actually I actually would think in terms of the matchup, I think the Beelzemon deck actually would beat out.
Not
Bloom
not
Lord
not
pretty-
not not matchup wise. Just saying it doesn't belong in the same tier.
Oh yeah, in the same
As
tier
a
for
deck,
sure.
yeah.
That's why I would put it in the Rogue. It's still a Rogue deck. Like not many people would play it just for people would play it for fun, and it actually does surprisingly still do pretty well.
Going into
Especially
Justimon,
also I would mention
yeah.
I forgot to mention Death the Cannon is a new option card for Beals.
it's just
So
it's
it
straight
actually-
removal, yeah.
It lets and pretty much it lets Beals because the issue with Beals was they couldn't hit the higher level Digimon at least in the early game because he didn't have enough in trash. But now this Death the Cannon literally just lets you play it to kill off a problem card in the early game, so it lets you survive to the late game. So
Justimon gets Justimon Critical Arm, which lets it when digivolving kill something and then bounce your own Justimon back to your hand, and then when attacking Evo straight back into Justimon. It lets you add that one layer of loop, so you can activate Justimons when attacking, and then go into Justimon Critical Arm, and then keep those DP buffs and reset the Justimon. It's still Justimon, so I don't see it going too far until it gets its full loop, getting its final piece. And even still, I still think it becomes incredibly situational. Just requiring 3 memory on top of an already played out Justimon to be able to do anything is going to be difficult given how much removals in this format.
I mean, it's a 1 cost on top of a Justimon.
Yes, but when attacking, to go straight back into the Justimon is another 2 cost. Because the goal of this Justimon Critical Arm is not necessarily the removal; it's to loop the same Justimon again. It's
So
the
kinda
loop
like
Blitz Arm.
Sakuyamon. So kind of like Sakuyamon.
It's the loop Blitz Arm back again, so you can reactivate its restand. It just feels too conditional, and we have a Justimon player, a loyal Justimon player at our locals. Shout out to Luigi. He just can't get his stack up. Like that's the biggest issue, is that he doesn't find his pieces, or when he does, it gets removed off the board immediately. So
Yeah, because the deck doesn't have much protection.
yeah, so I think it falls within C.
Yeah, I think also because the new option card Justice Kick, I think it's a 12 cost option. Never happened before. It's the first one that's ever done it. But then you can reduce its cost for every tamer you have by 1, only by 1. Which so I guess especially in like the Black Greymon matchup where they can remove tamers super easily, it's gonna be a hard climb for the deck to do well.
It's a fun card. You can drop a Justimon, but it's like all delete. It's not gonna happen. I don't see it being feasible. It just doesn't seem like something that's gonna be able to do too well for me. And I mean, no offense to Justimon players. I think, keep playing Justimon. I actually love seeing Justimon. I love seeing it win, but until it gets more support, it's not gonna be able to do that much. You want to move on to the next deck?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go to Leomon.
I think the Leomon deck right now is still going to be a fun deck. It was not
Yeah, I
a
agree.
necessarily
1000%.
like meta contender, but it's still just going to be a fun deck because I don't think there's any new support for it in the BT-10.
Nope. No support. It's just Leomon. You block a lot. You get a bunch of memory. It suffers from being vanilla Digimon, where there's no special gimmick that keeps it awake.
Yep.
D Reaper. I don't know where to put D Reaper on this list. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it actually would go down to like the B tier.
I agree.
Because because now people are aware that cards like Death-Exmon is going to be super strong in this format. I think a lot of decks are going to be teching in those cards that can't reduce play cost. A lot more so than BT-9.
Yeah, you're completely right about that. Yeah.
And then, so I think a lot of decks will be able to counter this deck relatively easier, especially since the deck right now, because there's no new support for it outside of possibly new combinations with new colors or new stuff like that. I don't think this deck will be able to keep up in terms of the kind of things that other decks can do in the format.
I've been stung by underrating Mother before. BT9, I was of the opinion that D Reaper is going to be the worst competitive deck in the format. I said that to Luca himself, and then he won Otakon. So I don't really know my own opinions on D Reaper. I'm going to be real honest.
I think also just because, like I said, in this format, there's a lot more removal options now. There's a lot more ways to kind of cheat around levels without specifically deleting by levels.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Grand Soul is a contender that lets you suspend the Reaper that restands a lot to then bottom deck it, so it slows down the deck. Cards like especially Jesmon can also swing at it actively to remove the entire Mother D Reaper on the board, as well as like Shoutmon can block other, like Blue Flare can stun now. So and like Sunriza can even security minus the entire board.
So I think that I think we should get on to the next deck of EX2. Are there any EX2 decks left? I thought I saw one.
Mega Gargomon.
Yes, Mega Gargomon. It's a fun deck.
I would say it's a fun deck. I surprisingly when I tried playing it back in the X2, I found it to actually pretty strong, but just still lacked like the defense. Like I said, in most of the green decks so far, they still lack the defense options for them. But in this one, you can suspend a bunch of things super easily. You can bottom deck or turn to hand a bunch of things from going into Mega Gargomon. But it still really relies on Tamers, which again, Tamers is pretty important in this format. So decks that can remove them is really strong. And then, yeah, just being able to, and then, again, there's no new support for it in BT-10, so it doesn't really change since back then in EX2.
Yeah. Going back to BT-8 now, let's talk about Mastimon. I think Mastimon is actually going to be pretty hot there because of its ability to kill Tamers and because of its ability to control boards. Being able to relentlessly pop anything.
It still doesn't hit level 7s. The deck currently, as of right now, still doesn't really hit level 7s unless you play Chaos Degrade.
And hitting into Chaos Degrade and Security makes you can't save your materials. Against the better decks in this format, I think Mastimon has a pretty decent matchup.
I would say it's a yes or no because Mastimon right now, the reason why Mastimon is really good right now is because it was OTK format. A lot of their problem decks would only have one Digimon. Because of how wide the board goes, this format, Mastimon at most is ideally only able to kill 2 things when going into their Mastimon. Unless they go into their Odemon, then it just board wipes.
But having the ability to redeem Mon in this format is also really good.
It is for sure. Like being able to kill an Jasmon's entire army and then recover like 7 times is still going to be pretty good.
I want to make a change here. I think I would put Mastimon right below Blue Flare, and I move these 3 decks down to B. Because our B looks pretty competitive right now, and I think we move, like we just do a shift. So I think we put like Wargrey X and D Reaper down to C, and then these
I still think
three down to three.
Sakuyamon is. I would still say Sakuyamon's actually still A tier,
You
and
think?
Venusmon as well. Yeah. I
just
can agree. Galamon can go down to B tier,
yeah,
but I would still consider Sakuyamon, and even possibly the Venusmon still doing pretty well.
that's fair.
Because
Yeah.
because again, Sakuyamon, they can actually loop now. They can go into maid mode, go back into Sakuyamon, play more plugins, put plugins into your security, so you're essentially recovering a bunch. Is also really good. And then just Venusmon being able to stop when attacking and when digivolving effects. Like if Venusmon's on the board and your opponent's trying to Massimon, being able to prevent that Ordenemon from board wiping your board is still super strong.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Mastermon's counterpart, Imperial Dramon. It's Imperial. I think it's just slowly falling off over time. I think I put it in C. C maybe. I think there's an unclear split between Rogue and C right now. Both C and Rogue are basically the same thing.
I would say no, because Rogue decks are just decks that are not being taken too seriously. Like people don't expect to see it, but if they do end up seeing it, it could still do pretty well in the format.
So then I think Beals belongs in C and not Rogue.
No, I would say being it's gonna sound kind of biased, but having played Beelzemon in the BT-9 format, I've actually still had some really pretty good matchups just because I was able to get people's pieces off the board.
That's what I'm saying, is that it belongs in a higher tier than it is.
I mean, but the road decks themselves are still, they're not the best. They don't technically belong in any form.
How I'm rating it right now is because if we're doing this by number, S is tier 0, A is tier 1, B is tier 1.5, C is tier 2, and then Rogue is kind of like unforeseen. Like Commandramon would be in Rogue if it was on this tier list. I don't really see. I like Rogue is a deck. I think you say Rogue when you don't expect it to win at all, but it can take games surprisingly, right? I would
say that for Beelzemon.
You would say that for Beals. I think Beals is actually just straight up tier 2. I don't think it's that bad. I think if we're putting Imperial Dramon in C, I don't think it's worse than Imperial.
No, I would put Imperial into Rogue tier.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because just the fact that it still has that aggro piece, it still has the potential to at least get rid of a bunch of security off the board, off then like turn 2, even if you have the right setup and the right memory. Which in this, like I said, in this format, possibly your opponent's going to be passing more than 3 memory on your turn. I think that deck is still going to be pretty strong.
That's fair. Yeah.
Not my Pildramon. No. S tier.
I do definitely think there's no support in it, BT-10. Just because I think they're trying to get ready for what's coming on the X3, which I'm excited for.
And the Beal starter deck.
Yep.
We actually forgot about Magnamon X because in my brain it's a BT-8 deck. Hear me out on this. Format small, deck not as bad, because everything swings into it. Counterpoint: Blue Flare just plays Magnamon X instead of playing Armor. Instead of Armor playing it. Double counterpoint, I guess.
Did you just counter your own point?
I think I just countered my own point. Yeah. I don't think the deck's all that bad. I think it belongs in B tier. I think Blue Flare just overshadows it 1000%.
Is it fun?
Yeah. I
guess. Surprisingly enough, I can actually see it being a tech card.
That's what I'm saying. Blue Flare lists play Magnamon X as a tech option.
I'm saying not even Blue Flare. I'm saying potentially even Shout. It's because that option card, the yellow option card from BT-9 is a thing. You can play that in anything that has armor on it. As long as you have that option card.
Yes, but when are you running Cross 5B? Or Cross 4B? Like, they're both cards that I have seen 0 play in Japan. That's the reason why I'm using it on. That's the reason why it feels good to use it on Decker Greymon. Or actually not Decker Greymon, because that's just a blue level 5. That's the reason why I feel fine with using it in its own deck, and because it's a blue level 5, I'm using it on Decker Greymon. you're never using cross 5B, nor are you ever using
Wait,
cross 4B.
You know what? I take that back. I think the option cards only has armored and traits, which those cards do not. So I'm
Yes.
probably
Yeah,
thinking
that's the
it's
issue.
different. Okay, then yeah, I don't think that deck will do pretty well. I don't think you would even play it in blue flare, to be honest.
You do play him. I think you do play Blue Flare because it helps with the crosshair matchup. Because crosshair now can't beat it. They can't swing over it. They have to remove it. Because their biggest thing is 10k, but they have no way of buffing it.
I see.
Yeah. Oh my god, we're back at BT-7 now. Blue Hybrid.
Doesn't change. It's still, I would say,
It's
fun deck, potentially C
fun.
tier.
My boy. Blue Flares, if you're going to play Blue Hybrid, look at yourself and play Blue Flare instead. I think that's the clear, obvious solution there. It gets completely replaced by Blue Flare.
I think just in general, any of the hybrid decks,
Yeah.
this format is going to be having a rough time because bunch of removal, bunch of tamer interactions,
Yeah.
bunch of things that are just that kind of just anti-hybrid. Like, so I think well, actually, on the other hand, I do think maybe if anything, blue hybrid could potentially see some play, just because they're still core mechanic. They're not stunning anymore.
They're bouncing now instead of something.
They're all about
base,
bouncing, which because a lot of the decks are hard playing their stuff now. You can just bounce it,
That's
and then
fair.
you don't get the save, and then they can't really hard play it again.
But you also have no way to get around Chessmon, and you also straight up insta lose to OTK decks because you're way too slow. You don't have.
Oh
to
yeah,
block
for
it.
sure, for sure.
So
But again,
I think it
I
stays
think,
in
yes,
fun. Yeah.
yeah.
Green Hybrid. Just play Bloomlord. Both these hybrid decks I love dearly. They're the decks I started out playing with. Green Hybrid just suffers from old age. It's been on its decline. It peaked a little bit in EX2, and now in BT9 it's trying to dig itself out of its grave. It's not working.
Because back in BT7 there weren't as many blocker cards.
Yes, exactly.
Now
Blockers becoming more prevalent.
BT10 are a lot more blockers are a lot more
And
prevalent.
even with the piercing, you can't finish out game if you have a bunch of blocks on board.
Yep. So I think it's just gonna be a fun deck.
Ancient Greymon, what do you think?
Ancient Greymon, I think it's still pretty. I would consider it a rogue deck just because it still has the aggression. Like, again, nothing really changes in this format.
I agree.
It's just it still has that aggression level where you can build into a hybrid and build your hybrid stack, go into Ancient Greymon, swing through 3-4 security, having it die, then you just build it back up again.
I want to move Blitzarm to Rogue. I already just want a Rogue. I think it's too stack heavy.
Which one?
Just one.
I mean, stack heavy.
I think it just requires too many pieces. You need to find your level 4s. You find your level 3s, your level 4s, your level 5s, your level 6s, and both your level 6s.
And your tamers.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I don't think it's that great. I think we move Bag Army back to C personally because it has cross. Just because it has the cross mechanic.
I would put Bagger as rogue. Again, I think because it's a tax deck, like it's gonna be people are gonna be surprised by it and not quite sure how to interact with the deck. And the deck could still just be all about like kind of rookie rushing and just swinging at like when you can, whenever you can. Just because it's all about taxing your opponent, preventing them from doing the kind of plays that they want to do on their turn.
D Brigade thoughts?
Nothing really changes in this format. It changes in BT11 or EX3. Sorry,
stays rogue.
I would say
actually, yeah, I think it does end up staying rogue. Just, it's a fun deck, but I'm trying to think of its specific matchups. Just one it loses against because it can't go wide enough to beat the Sistermon. It actually might be able to outpace Chessmon, maybe. It's a really weird deck because I can't theorycraft in my head. I have to actually try it.
It's a deck that definitely relies on your starting hand. If you have a bunch of rookies that can loop back into you playing more rookies, then you have a good time. If you find your other pieces that kind of slow your turn down or prevents you from playing multiple rookies on board, then I think
it also benefit the most from having being able to fit in really strong removal like Iron Fisted and Ultimate
Just because
Flare.
black and like
Yeah,
Congo and stuff like
and
that. Yeah.
Congo. But right now, I don't think removal is as strong anymore, simply because of how wide boards are. Beelstar, I think it's the same question. I just think Beelstar is a slightly better deck in general because of the advent of Nailbone. I think Beelstar belongs in C.
I would still put it in the B tier because again, because
okay.
the whole deck is all about removal and stuff, you can remove bodies pretty easily, and it seems like maybe, because I definitely think if you play Beelstar now, definitely Gelchwarmer as a card you would play more
Yeah,
so
that's
than you did
fair.
before. Just because being able to board wipe is really important right now.
Uh-huh.
So I definitely do potentially see a rise in Gelchwarmer, the black option card, rather than Kakai's Breath and other kind of cards, or even like Fly Bullets are less prevalent now, maybe.
I think Majinbae has been in fun since its inception, and I think it stays in there.
Machine Dramon is definitely a rogue deck.
Rogue, not fun. You think?
Correct. Correct.
I
Because the deck itself, if you see the deck pop off, it pops off pretty hard.
but it pops up pretty
Um,
hard. But then as soon as after you Majinbae, what's protecting it?
well, you do Machine Dramon into the Chaos Dramon, which then you Kaiser Nail to play it out again. Like yes, protection. Yes, it doesn't. And then if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Machine Dramon has you can strip. The protection is you can strip 2 sources to prevent it from being deleted.
Yeah,
or removed from the
deleted,
board.
but it doesn't stop DP reduction, which I think it's only at 12k. Which isn't super duper hard to DP reduce. I think.
I mean, the only decks that DP reduce right now, if I remember correctly, is only Sakuyamon.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So I think it's still gonna be a rogue deck.
Okay, that's fair. And then last, but definitely least, security control. God, I hate this deck. I don't think set control is going to be top of format anymore because I think it is more viable to brute force through security because you're not doing it with one stack. Instead, you're doing it with a bunch of little guys.
Depends on the deck. Shoutmon, you're swinging with one body because you're
But
playing
that
it.
body, if it dies, which was what security control kills it, saves again. With Jesmon GX, I guess the Jesmon can die. I feel like you still have Sistermons then.
Well, I think I definitely second control. I think is still gonna be a rogue deck just because.
It's not gonna be a rogue. It's way higher than that.
Yes, farther than higher. But I would say it's like high B if not low A, just
I
because
think it's low A. Yeah.
because they have a bunch of removal. They can have DP reminds, and yes, it saves your materials, but then that's still like they're removing a card you can't go back into because you have no way. And for Shaman specifically, you have no way that I can remember to grab that card back from
King
your
version.
trash.
King version lets you for 3 cost grab something back. It is still 3 cost, which is pretty expensive. But yeah. King version,
also a
yeah.
secret.
What? It is. I mean,
I if I remember correctly, people think people only play like 1 or 2 copies of this card. But it's not.
I don't play any. I would play 1 maybe. I don't know. It's a really weird brick in the hand when you're not playing against a deck that's gonna trash a bunch of your stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I think just because set control, especially tax control,
Yeah.
tax control is going to be another issue because tax and being able to tax your opponent, preventing them from doing the plays they want to do, is super strong. So it doesn't really matter if your Shoutmon has rush or not. If you swing your security and then you're passing turn anyway, that's it. You're only getting 1, maybe 2 checks off.
That's fair.
Which then set control, because who knows? Maybe there's a set control version with Venusmon or with Sakuyamon that lets you play option card, put option card back into your security. So there's a bunch of different new mechanics and new cards that could be a new form of tax control.
So I think this is our tier list. I definitely think we have some controversial takes.
Seeing it now, I would definitely put Maneuvermon in C tier.
Really?
Yeah, because the deck key point is that it can loop. If it can't loop, the deck doesn't do well because the entire design of the deck is to loop. But because decks like Reaper play out multiple bodies, Blue Malloy plays out multiple bodies, Jasmine plays out multiple bodies, and Shaomon potentially plays out multiple bodies, the deck is not going to be able to loop. And so far of the deck list that I've seen for it, there's no real removal in Maneuvermon.
I just think it's such a hot take. It's just such a hot take. I mean.
Then who knows? Then maybe we can put Maneuver into the rogue category. And potentially, if someone comes up with a deck list that makes it super.
I don't.
No, I would know. So for me, I don't consider Rogue deck being a lower tier.
Yeah, no. But on this tier list, right? I think I need to change this off of because this is how most people usually do it. Tier 1, tier 1.5.
Changing it at the end of the video.
Yeah. Tier 2. It doesn't go into Rogue. It is still a straight up competitive deck. People are going to play it. It's going to top 16.
Has it been topping in Japan?
Let me check.
Because I don't recall seeing Minerva Loop.
I know that Huang Zero thinks it's tier 1, in which I don't 1000% agree with.
Well, actually, I guess I kind of forgot the other part of Minervamon that says your opponent's turn. When your opponent plays a Digimon, you may play a purple level 4 or lower Digimon from your tribe, helping its cost.
I like that. I don't think I've never, at least in my playtesting, and I'm not a great Minerva Loop player, I haven't seen that card survive past that point.
Yeah,
at all.
for sure. But yeah, I think if we're considering that, because I kind of forgot about that effect too. The fact that whenever your opponent plays a Digimon, doesn't have to be by effect, doesn't have to be. You can even just be playing from the hand or playing it from an effect, whatever. You get to play out stuff from your trash, so you can potentially get a wide board as well, which then you can build back into your Cerberus mons and stuff to do the loop, that kind of half the loop that you're trying to do. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I don't know. I'm not sure how people like actively use that deck. That kind of.
I think it stays in 1.5.
I wouldn't put it at 1.5.
You wouldn't?
No.
Low 1.5?
It would either be, like I said, it would either be tier 2 or rogue deck. Because the fact that you can't loop if your opponent has more than 2 Digimon, or has more than 2 Digimon on board, and so far as I've seen from the deck list that I've seen, I don't see how they remove cards from the deck. From the field, I don't know how they can do the loop.
But I feel like it has.
Like, if I could be entirely wrong,
the
deck could have a bunch of rules that I just don't know about. But so far that I've seen, I've only seen people do the loop against decks that don't particularly have more than 2 bodies on board at the same time. I think it was like against set control or something. I don't know.
I think one final change I would make is I think we're underestimating how much the impact of everybody playing Psychemon and Chikurimon is going to hurt
D-Reaper.
Yeah, I think it drops down to tier 2 because of that.
Yeah, because again, there's no new options, so the deck can't really compete with the rookies.
And it gets red, black, and purple get anti D-Reaper pieces.
Yep. So definitely tier 2.
Are you cool on finalizing this?
He better be.
I mean, I guess. I mean, like you said for BT-9, where a bunch of the different decks have seen topping. I think a bunch of different decks in this format will top as well. I don't feel there's going to be a single one that we see more so than not as much as more so than the others. So
but
I think we should move into the new player friendly ending before we wrap things up.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a few questions.
Definitely.
All right. Opinions from the both of you, one at a time. We'll start with Zach.
What deck do you think a new player should get into?
3 questions.
Let him finish.
Okay. All right. So, I want one deck that is the most meta slave of meta slave. I need one deck that has the highest skill ceiling, and then I need one deck that's the lowest skill floor while being the most competitive for that skill floor.
Highest, easiest deck meta slave deck is going to be Crossheart. I think the hardest deck to play in the format is going to be Mervaloop. And then I think the easy deck is... wow. This format is pretty hard. I would say of course, I always say the easy deck, if you want to learn the game, is going to be Gallantmon. Or Gallantmon or D-Brigade. I think Gaiamon is actually a pretty decent option if you want to learn the game, because it teaches you how to do aggro, teaches you how to do control. I think if you're a player, also, I'm going to add one more question, Ryan. If you're a player playing on a budget, everything out of Crossheart is going to be so cheap.
I was going to say, there's actually probably like 2 more questions.
Yeah.
One of them being, what structure deck do people get? And the other one being, why isn't Imperial Dramon higher on the tier list?
What structure deck should everybody get? I would recommend getting 2 of Jesmon. You always get 2 of a starter deck if you're getting it, so you get all the cards you need because some of the cards in there only come as 2 ofs. Of course, I would highly recommend just getting all of the structure decks for them. But if you're gonna lean towards one, I would say Jesmon because it ends up just straight up being the better deck in the format in the end. Why is Imperial Dramon so low? Because you smell, Ryan.
Fair enough. All right, same questions to you, Michael.
So it was high most meta slave deck in the format.
Yep. And then highest skill ceiling, and then lowest skill floor while being the most competitive for that skill floor.
Okay.
And then the other 2, you could skip the Imperial Dramon question, but what structure deck?
Meta slave for sure. Again, I would say still Jesmon or Shoutmon. Sorry, the Crossheart. Just because a lot of it, because it's a new mechanic, it's a new deck from this set. All the cards you will ever need for it are gonna be in this set. You don't need any old cards. Which again kind of falls into the Zach's half question. If you're on a budget, what kind of deck should you get? I think Shoutmon is still a good one, just because, yeah, like I said, a bunch of the cards are from this set. You don't have to get any old cards. Second question was high skill ceiling to play. Honestly, I would probably say Jesmon. Just because, actually, to make a deck competitive, high skill ceiling, I want to see potentially Bagger. The deck doesn't do too well, but it has a kind of. Actually, I don't know. I'll say the first answer.
I love it.
I'll stick to the first answer. I'll say Jesmon, just because it has a bunch of pieces that you can't quite digivolve on top of, so you have to find ways to build your piece, as well as find ways to play out and decide which system ones you want to play to extend your plays. I think it's going to be pretty important. So if you're just playing out random system mons, you might not get the most value out of it. So I think Jesmon would be a good one. Would be one that's a high skill ceiling for. Third question was low skill requirement to play.
Yep, but the most competitive for that skill floor.
Most competitive for that skill floor. Might not be the most competitive, but I think just in general the lowest skill floor to play out of the new decks in this format. I would say maybe Bloomlord, because the deck still plays out like a normal deck where you still build in your pieces, and then you literally just use all your effects to play out other cards in your hand, so then you can go into your level 6. There's nothing really too fancy. Like the entire mechanic, you just play out extra cards in your hand. There's no extra like combos or stuff you can do with it. It's literally just playing out cards. And then the fourth question was which starter deck to get.
Yep.
I would still, like Zach said, recommend the Jesmon one. Just because, again, that deck is, even though it might have a high skill floor, it's pretty straightforward in what you need to get the deck. And the deck still plays kind of like a normal deck, where you just build up into your mega, compared to the Ragnarlord deck, because the Ragnarlord, you're playing out cards from the top of your deck, which is a bit different and a bit more random than the Jesmon deck. So definitely recommend the Jesmon.
All right, and actually, to add even more questions before I let Zach go ahead and sign off. If you were gonna spend $1 million on Digimon cards, where would you spend it? And if you want to come back to another YouTube channel, or this YouTube channel, specifically hint to the answer to the question, what YouTube channel would you go to for the best Digimon content?
What does the first question mean? I would buy Digimon cards.
Yeah, do you buy Digimon content? Okay, I'm just gonna answer it myself. You would buy you would spend $1 million on Digimon at #GamingArena.
You meant where? I think you meant on what?
Oh yeah, where? And where would you come to for Digimon content?
Yeah, you come to #GamingArena
on YouTube.
#GamingArena.
#GamingArena on YouTube.
Okay, all right.
#gaming, right?
Yeah, #gaming. Okay, all right. You guys
yeah.
fried my brain. Sign off. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, roasting our atrocious takes. And, yeah, we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Outro!